quit another job and I'm doing marketing, and I realized I don't think I like doing marketing. I was marketing for some random companies around town, and instead of having one boss, I felt like I had multiple bosses. This ain't why I left working for the man, to work for multiple men. And on top of that, I moved to this place right here, and some stuff started happening. My boss had given me a book, and that book was actually this one right here. It's called The Alchemist. The Alchemist is a book about a boy who goes on a journey. But see, I didn't know that because I ain't read the book. So days go by, I'm not reading the book, and all of a sudden, for a random reason, my mom sends me a video. And the video is Oprah and Pharrell. They're doing an interview. And you know, Oprah's like, Pharrell, can you tell me about a book that changed your life? And Pharrell's like, well, Oprah, you know the book that changed my life and got me all these Grammys and made me one of the most successful music producers of all time? Is this little book called The Alchemist. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's right. I got this book. I should have read the book, but see, I didn't read the book, okay? I still ain't read the book. And next thing I know, I hear about the book again. New York Times bestseller list. 30-year-old book, The Alchemist, back on the New York Times bestseller list. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Why is everybody reading this book? So I'm still not reading the book. As you can see, like this book here, right? Like it's really nice. Got like nice hardback, got sleeves, beautiful. Like it's got pictures and stuff in here, you know, little animations and everything. Like it's a really, really nice copy of The Alchemist. At the time, I don't think I even knew where this copy of The Alchemist was when I moved. You know, it was just kind of stuff everywhere. And so even though this version of the book was lost, as I'm moving, I noticed there's something on my kitchen counter. And I walk over to the kitchen counter and I see this. I had never seen this shit in my life. It's a discounted $6.99 version of The Alchemist. Paperback. Now listen, I make sure I keep both these books because I'm like, there's no way this happened. Where did this book come from? I completely freak out. I sit down on this couch and I read this book cover to cover. Because I'm like, this book has chased me down. And I learn about this story of a boy who goes on this journey to chase his dream. And at the beginning of this story, the boy learns about omens, or signs from the universe, from God, from this wise man. And I'm like, oh my God, the book was a sign. After reading this book, my whole mindset shifted. All of a sudden, I was like, I have to be looking for the signs, for the omens to find my treasure, just like the boy in the book. And it was with that mindset that I get a late night phone call from my uncle. See, my uncle's an engineer at NASA, and he was working on this project for the Space Launch System, and he was gonna use this adhesive that was based off the feet of geckos. As he's telling me about it, since I had just moved, I had just mounted this TV on the wall. And while it may look good now, this TV was an absolute nightmare to mount, okay? The studs were all messed up. It took me 2 weeks to figure out how to mount this TV to the wall. And as he's telling me about this gecko-based adhesive from NASA research in the 70s, I'm like, man, I could have mounted that TV on the wall. It would have been way easier to mount it onto the wall with this magic adhesive. So I started doing research, start looking it up. I'm looking at stuff Stanford's done research on it, MIT's done research on it. And I'm like, man, I gotta get me this adhesive. So as I get to thinking, I'm like, well, I may not be able to mount a giant TV on the wall, but maybe I could mount a little tiny TV to the wall. And that's where the idea came for the flip stick. A little device that allows you to stick or mount your phone to virtually any flat surface. Then it was light, and check this out. It even worked as a kickstand. So now it's hype. It didn't look like this when I first created it. In fact, this is actually our version 1 of the product. But I got to work. I started to do research. I learned how to file a patent, learned how to file a trademark. I said, you know what? I'm gonna launch this thing on Kickstarter. I went and found all these manufacturers on Alibaba, and I'm just hyped. I'm like, look, I may not like marketing for other people, but marketing for myself, I think I could do that. So then I got to work. First, I made a prototype out of cardstock and double-sided tape. Took some pictures, some videos, sent it off to some factories in China. They started doing some work on it. Probably invested about $1,000, $2,000 per factory to get the first prototype back. From there, I started researching how I was gonna launch it. I decided I wanted to do Kickstarter. Got the Kickstarter together, started making a video. I don't know if you can see, but I bought this camera over here, made the video, invited all my friends, and I was ready to launch this thing, man. I made all these assets and I was just excited. More important than anything, I I was following the omen, following the sign. I'm like, if this came to me in a moment where my mind was right, my heart was right, then it's meant for me to do. Like normally, a phone call with my uncle, it would have went in one ear and out the other. I wouldn't have thought much about it. But this time, thanks to this little book, I was like, this idea is gonna take me places. And take me places, it did.